Hello. Alright, we'll just see how this ramble goes. I have no script and I don't know what I'm doing. So I've been working on learning Akkadian for the first half of this year, and I thought I would work on a little bit of translating that while also just having a ramble about Conlangs, because I had bought this book ages ago, never got to reading all of it, but I just sort of wanted to have, I guess, a ramble as I sort of translate. Anyway, this is going to be just me again screaming into the void. So I'm going to be working on, well, I got a printout of these so I didn't have to lug around this like whole thing. But I wanted to work on some of the contracts. Well, I was going to work on one of the contracts from lesson 15. Now you notice that this isn't actually in cuneiform, but rather it's in the transliteration. Like I cannot do this because I haven't learned the Old Babylonian signs. I've learned the Neo-Assyrian ones, so I'd be needing to go back forth between looking at, okay, what does this Old Babylonian sign, what's the Neo-Assyrian one, and determine the values from there. But anyway, so what I'll do is I'll go for number 3, which is the receipt of silver for grain purchase. Now the stuff that's in capitals, that is referencing, like in all capitals, that means it's a sumerogram, not in the Neo-Assyrian or the Old Babylonian and so on. It's a sumerogram, so it's being held over from Sumerian, and it just, that sign alone means, like, has a meaning to it. So it's like a logogram, as they call it. So for example, this one here, in Neo-Assyrian, it can be used to have like a vowel and consonant value of an, but it can also be used a god's name, and that's when it's we've given it that name, and it's transliterated as like a D and then name. So that would indicate, that before a name would indicate it's a god's name, and so on. Getting off track. So receipt of silver for grain purchase, and I suppose that's the sort of something I think would be cool if I was going to make a conlang, is to have sort of holdovers from like a preceding language, which again would be a pain in the ass because you'd almost be making 2 languages, but I think that would be interesting regardless. I was just rereading the introduction of this. Watch me get distracted now. I was rereading the introduction to this, where he talks about this segment of sort of discussion in the one of the Star Wars movies, and he talks about how, you know, theoretically for this discussion to work, what if it's that this word that looks identical every subsequent time that it's stated, it takes on a new meaning. So the first time it's used, he says, what if it means Wookiee, and then the second time it's used means 50,000, and so on, because he says the subtitles, the way they're sort of translating it, seems very over the top and very complex. So, and the subtitles sit outside of the film, so you expect them to be more accurate. I was sort of reading over this and I was thinking, oh, hello, cat, do you want to come say hello? No, you're just going to walk past? All right. And I was thinking, what if the subtitles are actually just putting it into like nicer English, let's say. Now, of course, this is always with the caveat that when they're writing this, they probably weren't thinking of let's make a whole language. But it was thinking, okay, what if this is to put it into nice English or comprehensible English, which is often the case with translating ancient languages, where the initial translation is usually quite clunky and then you sort of neaten it up to make it comprehensible. So in this case, how it says, I've come for the bounty on this Wookiee, like the yoto is the word that's repeated. So what if that means the bounty? So like yoto just means bounty, and this somehow refers to, you know, I've arrived for this purpose. And then in repeating yoto, so he'll offer 25,000. And in her repeating it, she's saying, you know, double the bounty. In ancient Egyptian, there was this sign. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's one that looks like that. And I think sometimes it would have lines under it. But essentially, it would mean repeat that the next phrase. So repeat it twice. So if you said, let's say just that sign and then yes, I can't remember if that's the right sign, it would mean someone reading that would understand that to mean yes, yes. Or in this case, I'm thinking he's he'll offer 25,000 for Chewie. That's what C-3PO relays. So in her repeating Yoto, so the bounty, perhaps she's saying, no, instead of 50,000, no less, she's saying, no, double the bounty. So double what I've come for, you know, this amount. And then he says, no, 25,000, and she's saying, no, double the bounty, which is why it's then translated as 50,000, because that's the sentiment that's conveyed. Anyway, that was just my little thing that I was thinking of, and I suppose it falls apart by the next part. But yeah, I need to read this in a lot more detail, but I remember I got not fully all the way through, but I think I got through some of the sounds and that, but I really want to try and make a Conlang at some point, so I'll read that in more detail. Getting distracted. So, receipt of silver. Now, Kug Baba, from what I remember, means silver. So that would be in the actual language, it would be Kaspam. Ana, so Ana meaning 2 or 4. This means silver. Sham, and I think that might be, is that a name? Ana Sham. Can't remember what that is. Maybe it means Sham. Okay. All right, you're gonna make me go hunt for that. All right, nice. Sorry, just make a little note for that. So then it's something Sham. I've got a gut feeling maybe it means sail, but like 2 4 blank. Oh, maybe it means grain. Maybe it means grain, because it's silver for the grain or for the sail. All right. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Now, I can't remember what that is, so I need to come back to that. Ki, so that ki sign, it can be sometimes used before a place name, but it can also sometimes mean with. So, here we go. We've got that little D there, meaning this is a god's name. I can't remember which god's name though. So with da da da. So and it with is iti, and then the god's name. I can't remember what that. Anyway, god's name. I'll just put for now, and then I'll put the real one. All right. I'll actually put the little numbers. So 4, we've got Ana again. So 2, 4. So I keep coming back here because this says all the personal names. And so many times I've been reading through one of these and I'm like, what is this word? And then I look to the personal name and it's a personal name. Okay, Shin Bel. So it's not a god's name. Okay, so it's with. Sorry. So, okay, what happens is sometimes god's names are used in personal names, which is why it's got the Jinger sign and then Enzu da 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 da. So this is actually Shin. Sorry, I'm having my moment of realizing where I cocked up. All right, Shin Bel Aplim. So this is the guy's name. So silver 2 4 blank something something with Sin Bel Aplim, his name, 2 4, and then Kabe. Can't remember what that means, but I'll need to double check. And then we've got another name. So again, you see here. So this is Zababa Ilum. Okay, so in this case, where it said Dinger sign, that means that instead of being used to sort of denote a god's name, in this case it's just being used to refer to like just the word God. So Kabe Zababa Ilum. And the fun thing about names is usually they're always in the nominative, even when they should be in the accusative, because names are sometimes put in afterwards. That's a whole other thing. Okay. Dumu, so this sign here, it looks like this. So it looks something like that. In Neo-Assyrian, it just means sun. So in this case, it's going to be Zababa Ilum Dumu, so which in the Akkadian would be Mar, which is the bound form of son. So Dumu, so Mar Ibni Adad, so son of Ibni Adad. Yep. And let's see, Nabu. All right. And then Nabu Malik. Bu Malik. Dumu, so son, Mar. Then Marduk Mubalit. My pronunciations are terrible, so don't come at me for him. Mubalit. Oh dear, apologies for that, the sniffing. Okay, so Mad Ibni Abdad Nabu Malik. Okay, son of blank. And so this little u means and so we've got that name again, maybe, or is this a different name? No, slightly different, guys. So this would be Sin. Yeah. This is one of the blessings and curses of the the contracts, is that it's just so many names. So son of, and then we've got our last name finally. Okay, Mad Belia. And Ilku, so I think that means give. So Ilku, cool. See, this is why I've got to keep checking down here. So Kabul, or Kabe in this case, I think means authorization. Authorization. Ilku, so they gave. Ina. So in means in, but it can also mean from sometimes in relation to a person, but I think it means in this case. So mahir, so meaning current price rate. So mahir. Mahir. I've got share. Check that again. So something Sha'am. Go check that again. I think that means we'll measure out the price. Okay, and then where it says witnesses and the date, then what's on the rest of the document is just sort of who witnessed this agreement and the date. So receipt of silver for grain purchase. So I've got a feeling that She'er might mean the grain. But what I'll do, actually I think I've got the logograms printed out. Give me a moment. Logogram. Share. So we want share. Apologies for my shit. That's shit, but just then go. Yeah. Apologies, I cannot remember in what order I have these, like scan them and have these. Okay. It's saying. Do you want me to see? Hang on. You want me to have a look at a chapter? Which I'm saying, why are we needing to look forward to chapter 24.4 in lesson 15 anyway. Alright. 25, 25, 24, 24, 24.4. Okay. 24. You want to have a look at that? Okay. 24.4a. 24.4. Oh, and then. Okay. Loss of animation. Okay, but that doesn't tell me what that is. It just tells me why it's she instead of shem. So I think it's a case of I just cannot remember what the logogram means. This is why it's nice to have the physical book, because half the time I'm flipping through it to sort of try and... That's the sign list. Can I have the logograms, please? Have I skipped it? Possibly. I think I have skipped it like a fool. Okay, that's the glossary of Akkadian words. And I think it's directly after that finishes. So it probably helps if I had this like on on screen. Glossary of Akkadian words. Where are the logograms? Okay. We want share. Share. But what do you mean? Feel like that's gonna be green. All right. Have a look at the. Right, gotta get through all the S's. You, alright. Edible grain, alright, that's the wheat or barley, that's the grain. Okay. So this is the grain. So that means the sale of the grain. And I can't remember the word for sale. I think it's not shamnam, I think that's oil. It's something like that. So in essence, from what I understand, this sale, the silver for the sold grain, and then where's that verb? That verb is, so they gave the silver, okay, so who did, with, okay, so it might mean from in that case. So, all right. So 2 for authorization. This is the difficulty with the names because it's like trying to. So Zaba, son of Ibn Adad. They gave, I assume it's them. They gave silver for the price or the for the buying of the grain from like with Sin Bel Aplim. So Sababa, son of blank, Nabu son of blank, and Sin Aham Idinam, son of Belia. They gave silver for the sale or like for the purchase of the grain in the current going price of, and so this is the word for grain and then a possessive suffix. So in the current going price of their grain, and then imnadad, they measured out the grain, I assume. So something along the lines of that. And this is languages. You gotta love them and I hate them. But I suppose this is the thing where when I think about sort of making a language, there are so many convoluted like little side things to think about, like, and grant all these notes are sort of adapted from this textbook. So with the nouns and so on, they can be declined. So if they're in the singular, the dual, and the plural, and it's just in making a language having to think about, well, do you want to record this information of the singular, dual, plural, gender, masculine, feminine, or neuter as well? And yeah, it's like, what do you want to be affected by that gender and that declining? So, for example, in this, in Akkadian, the adjectives are declined to sort of match the noun they're modified, which, makes sense. So I don't think there's like a formal place where they have to appear. They can come, I think, maybe before, maybe after. But in matching the gender and number of the noun that they're modifying, it's easy to say, okay, this is affecting this. And then you have sort of English, where in some ways we're a bit more, English is probably a little bit worse because at least in that it's somewhat more consistent, whereas we've just got some nouns that have masculine and feminine, and then they're not always used, depending, like especially now, for example, the difference between actor, actress, comedian, comedienne, like that, or brunette and brunette, blonde and blonde, they're barely used anymore, and they're certainly not used consistently. So anyway, but that's to say is I want to have a go at making a language. I think that's going to be one of my goals for one of my side projects, after I deal with this, because I've got an exam coming up and that's going to be so much fun. Anyway, thanks for watching me struggle through this, and I need to practice more and also review my vocab, which is all in here. Here's my little vocab list and the definitions on the other side. I need to work on memorizing this. Anyway, thank you and bye-bye.